Hello, it's back. Chapter 12 is here. Well, chapter 12 is new, but the story's back. And I hope it's good. I don't know, really. It's probably just mediocre, just something to put on in the background. That'd be totally fine, by the way. But yeah. So, chapter 12. It's the longest chapter so far. I wrote 33,300 words for this chapter, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I really like it as well. It's really cute, in my opinion. Well, it is in a way. I really like it. Hope you like it too. Shall we begin? No, let's not begin. Let's just sit here and have a staring contest. I mean, joking. We are actually going to continue now. Um, yeah. So, chapter 12. Ooh, okay, let's go. Chapter 12. The pair of odd humans walked side by side, the young man with his long, relaxed strides, while the dirty but regally dressed woman strode with short steps and a slight aura of impatience. They were silent, the sound of their crunching footsteps across the hot, sandy earth causing the only sound, bar the occasional scuffle in the dry, murky green bushes that they often had to scramble past. There was no path. Oh no, not in this time. Nature lifted its eternal head and restored its calm, sleepy reign, switching the light off of technology and drowning everything into a reincarnated simplicity. Goodness gracious! Where are we now? Maria asked loudly, puffing in a really unladylike manner. But boggle it. Never mind. Just climb all the way up this steep, narrow slope with yellow rocks, sparsely cropped plants, and the baking sun pounding against her head. She had big concerns. Her arms and hands were laid thick with a coating of red, whilst her body seemed to throb with a great sense of weariness from the heat. She was breathing heavily, slowing down now beside Salvo, who had begun to walk ahead of her. He looked around, seeing the state she was in. It's okay, it's okay. There's a lagoon coming up. How are you aware, sir? 'Cause I've walked this way before. I mean, back then there was a pathway, but I suppose it's gone now. Still, I can tell you the shape from the hills around us and the structure of the landscape. I'm pretty good with directions too, if I say so myself. He was bare-chested now, heat having forced him to rid himself of the top part of his black skin-tight suit. He stood above her, 5 paces ahead, yet the slope was so steep that her head was at the same level as his skinny black shoes. You can make it. Just don't think of anything else except putting the next foot in front of the other. She nodded, clambering up to his level. She could feel rivulets of sweat falling down her back, and she knew she must look like a complete mess. A small part of her laughed inwardly at the ridiculousness of her situation. Climbing up some random rock, some random lake, in the middle of a random world, not what she had quite expected when she woke up this morning. Take the dress off. I beg your pardon? Don't be silly. He raised his voice slightly, placing his hands on his hips, looking down and shaking his head. I'm just trying to help you cool down. You're going to overheat in there. Just take it off and fling it away. It will only make all this work and havoc on you. She stared at her directly in the eye. I'm only interested in our survival, you know? I really do not have much of an inkling you'll be all perverted and look at you without a dress on. I'm just concerned that y'all flop over in this heat. Not strictly true, but the white lie was important at this point. But my husband gifted me this dress before he was slain. It's the last thing he gave to me before the skirmish against these ferocious Spaniards. There had been a trading dispute, an awful argument, and an outcome of a pile of bodies and another widow to add to the grieving pile of women who had lost the very marriage of their lifetime. Well, he wasn't sure what to say. Husbands and wives were names not quite uncommon in his time. He sighed. Give it here, I'll carry it for you, he told her softly. Don't worry, I'll be nice and careful. She looked at him straight in the eye, and then pulled the dress over her head in a swift flurry of motion, still holding his gaze. There, she said, folding the slightly regal fashion item and revealing a long, white, thin, light shirt which glowed surprisingly so in the sunshine. Okay, Salvo erupted with the word. He made sure he was holding the dress gently, but doubted it would ever come to any use, and began walking upward once more. Maria felt a soft breeze across her face, and sighed as if a big weight had been lifted. She didn't really want to get low with the dress, but it was certainly the right idea under these actual circumstances. She soared as a fly, like an agile soldier in battle. She felt its tiny body slapping against her. She knew she was powerful. She could inflict her own battle acts of force against nature, and she could win. She could succeed. She had help and guidance from a large muscular friend, who now was a couple of paces ahead of her, but that was just teamwork. She understood that she had been far too brazen striding out on her own into the undergrowth. Teams had their fair share of value in this new world, and while it felt like it was everyone against her in the old world, perhaps people here were nicer, more supportive. Perhaps this man, Salvo, would blossom into an individual she could trust and rely upon. Maybe she would follow him after all, the entire way over to this other coast he spoke of. Later, just as Salvo had promised, they arrived at a very small lagoon lodged between the two extremely tall cliffs and a pile of very straight reeds on the far side. Further away were a tribe of small, thin trees with sparse leaves. They seemed to glare like an angry crowd of disgruntled locals at the returns arrivals of humans to this land. Perhaps the cycle was clinking into motion once again. "Get your body in there," Salvo pointed. "Oh, why thank you, sir, because I really needed your awfully needed directions." He didn't laugh, only he smiled with a slight humph of chuckle. "Come on, I'll race you. Oh, you do what not want to race me. Oh, and why would that be? Because I always succeed, loser." She flung a bunch of twigs into his face and started sprinting towards the nearest patch of water, oblivious to the stones and spiky plants that littered the shores of the lagoon. Suddenly, she felt thick, warm arms around her, and she was hoisted quickly and rapidly into the air. She felt a whoosh of momentum, and she was propelled forward into the lagoon with a gigantic splash. "Oh my goodness!" She laughed uncontrollably, as if it wasn't Maria who was laughing anymore. Her body had taken over, and she was unawarely surrendering to her body's sharp reflexes. Boom! She felt a tidal wave next to her as the great body of Salva hit the surface of the water. It made quite the impression in the lagoon, she noted amusedly. She smiled, a row of large white teeth glowing at him. This was the most fun she had had in a long time. "Can't believe how terribly lovely this water is," she said shrilly. "British waters are always so terribly cold." "You like in California now, then, right? Well, it certainly has its quirks," she said with a gleam in her eye. "With a personality such as yours, and you talk about quirks. Oh, what's your word, sir? I may be born in a castle, but I can understand when I'm being mocked." "Ooh, I'm a high-born lady, and I have thousands of servants to dress me every day," Salva said, using a very distorted accent of Maria's. "1,000 servants?" She laughed at the thought. "That's just horrifying," she said teasingly. "They'd probably take over the castle." It had happened. She had read about the President's revolt a few centuries earlier from when she had been born. "No, they'd be too scared of you," he winked at her. They were only a few meters apart now, but they felt much closer. "How am I scary?" "You asked me that with burning daggers in your eyes, looking as if you want to shoot fire out of them." She found this hilarious, and burst into a tinkle of laughter. Okay, you're not so scary when you laugh, I must say," he snorted. "Oh, do you think I seem more sullen and moody?" "Just be you, and we'll have no problems," he grinned. "I'm being me, all me, and nothing but me, after all." They hadn't noticed the dejected-looking figure that had scrambled behind the rock at the sound of their loud splashes into the pool. They were too locked into the distraction of looking at each other. Maria couldn't help but wonder if this man would be the only human being she would see for the rest of her life. Nothing was so certain. The mysteries of this new world offered up no answers to that question, but she found herself not really caring either way. He was, indeed, a charmer, and quite amusing, especially compared to the lofty loafs that crawled the hall of Ludlow. She liked his square face, and how his dark hair seemed to stick to one side as if forced there by gravity. It was indeed intriguing. His eyes were so dark, like the shades of the night itself. All the people she knew possessed these turquoise and bluish-coloured eyes. It was most dull, but his doors were different. She could easily look into them, and just wonder, what indeed was he even thinking about? She thought she knew, but perhaps not. "We should get out," Salvo said abruptly, gesturing to the pool. "The bites on your arm. They most definitely require some kind of bandage. Just wait for me on the edge of the water." "Oh!" All right, she agreed, curious to understand what he had in mind. Couldn't help but admire his body as he jumped out of the pool, skin glowing and shining with a final sprinkled dregs on his skin, covering his body as he stood in the sunlight. Suddenly, though, she was left alone, while he padded off somewhere, clearly much more aware of the local area than she, of course. The temperature was nice now, an ideal index for staying warm with a nice coating of water pretty much acting like a mega perspiration, except without that quite terrible smell. The red sores were still there, but she couldn't help that. She thought she could hear some sort of wailing in the distance. A loud cry. Had to be an animal. There was wildlife everywhere. Life itself seemed to be so adaptable and newer to environments, brought out strange new beasts into the world. She was trying to guess what the wailing creature could look like when Salvo returned, holding a twig with a white, sticky substance on the end. Strangely as well, he was humming some perverse tune. What do you have there? What do you have there? Oops. Spider web, he said simply. And how is an old spider's web going to help me exactly? Just watch, he said quickly, picking a clean piece of web and draping it over the swords the creatures had left behind. She definitely did watch, and with curiosity too. She initially was attempting to leap away in outrage and tell him that his japers were not as fun or tall funny for a second. There was something in his concentration, a certain caring seriousness, that relaxed her. She allowed herself to be taken care of by this man, this giant. He was enormous. Most men were more than a head or even the neck shorter than this certain individual. She liked that, though. Spiderwebs help fight against bacteria and fungi, he explained. It's the best I can do with only the wild at my disposal. Are you some kind of physician or something of that sort? He laughed. You mean a doctor? No, no. All doctors are robots. I just know some stuff 'cause I was curious and all. How could a robot treat men's illness and injury? Uh, trying to think of a good way of explaining it. Well, they just can. They got this technology to make you feel comfortable with great artificial intelligent facial expressions and incredibly sophisticated knowledge. They can analyze and grasp the cause your pain and suffering much more accurately than any human. There's no point now for people to study as doctors anymore. Machines do most jobs in the world. Now, I'm one of the people who just sits back and lets the robot world take care of me. I like it. My main passion is travel and exploration anyway. Is that so? Heck yes, he said, with his eyes lighting with a fiery flame of excitement at the thought of his many travels across the world. I love exploring every inch. I'm a bit of a dork, I must say, but traveling and adventuring into the unknown gives me such a rush, such a burst of adrenaline. I can't control myself to run headfirst into the mystery of the open air and outdoors. It's amazing, he said with a genuine smile on his face. That's why I'm excited to do this race. It's a competitive reason to travel across an entire country to which I was born into. Isn't that awesome? Well, yes, she said, trying to understand his enthusiasm. I've never really been outside of England. London's the furthest I've travelled away from Ludlow. Until now, he grabbed her fingers with his hand, instead of enveloping hers like a large soft blanket. We can travel across this whole bizarre and incredibly diverse continent together, Maria. What do you think of that? She paused, trying to comprehend the immensity of the question. I think it's a lot of walking. Lots and lots of walking. And lots of discovery, he pointed out. Yes, but listen. I've been around the country in England, and most places look the same. I don't see why this America should be any different, really, she said, turning her nose up. Let's just get to Yosemite region you did tell me about. Perhaps we can stay there a while. He sighed and sat a few meters away from her, on a flat rock. He lay back, looking up at the sky that was beginning to fade away, being taken over by the domineering darkness. Maybe, she heard him say eventually. She felt a tinge of guilt for cutting off his dream. He was such a passionate man when it came to travelling, as he put it, but his idea was absurd. She hadn't got any message from telling her that she had to race. With all she knew, he was lying to try and get her to be his companion on this ridiculous voyage that would require loads and loads of tiresome walking, everywhere. It was simply nonsense. She just wanted to find a nice place to live, a peaceful place, where she could feel content, maybe even with him. Yosemite sounded ideal. What was that tune you were humming? she asked him across the distance he had made. Ha! He sat up excitedly. I guess you've been stuck listening to your fancy lutes and clarinet music, right? Of a sort, I suppose, but we didn't really get many exciting musicians taking the effort to travel to places outside of oh so magical London, she said, not sure what he was getting at anyway. Well, music's changed a lot since your time. He's leaning back. Change of the environment, I guess. You know? I suppose, she said reluctantly. So go on, sing it to me. He smiled at her, and he began to sing. She realized pretty quickly that his voice was rubbish, but the song itself was interesting. It expressed a sense of passion for purpose, and a longing for a true requirement for existence. It had such a jumpy and chaotic rhythm to it as well, as if the song was being shaken in a giant maraca. What on earth would the world be like in that time to acquire so strangely intriguing jaunts through music? She wondered to herself again. What a world indeed! Tell me more about 2132, she said abruptly, slicing his song in half, forcing him to travel to silence. He smiled at her. I don't spend much time in the real world, just on netted and mostly then on virtual Earth. I mostly use the real world for the gym. I like feeling good about my body. He looked down at his bulging muscles proudly. Firstly, you gotta know that we're a society that are served by robots, he began. They are basically slaves, and there are quite a few people that are worrying about an uprising. That robots will gain consciousness over their enslavement and take over humanity using their gosh darn supreme skills. Well, I think this is just a bunch of crap. No engineer would design a robot that has self-awareness to take charge of itself, or to learn and maximize its abilities to serve us humans. We're lucky as a species really now. Before, I know you people in the olden times had it hard, super hard, had to work all day and come home to spend all of what you earned on the necessities of life. Not many luxuries for you. It gets better for future generations. And I think we're at the peak of human standards of living right now. I must say, apart from robots giving us everything, I think you and I are the same. Surely there must be more. You're very weird to me, sir. Oh, there is. That's true. He thought about it. What was different? Well, we know a lot more about curing diseases. We can save women from the high risk of death at childbirth. We've learned how to travel to space. Space? Oh yeah, above the sky. Above the what? There's nothing above the sky. There's true, Maria, but we've explored part of that nothingness using the same AI that serves us our cup of tea in the morning. What is tea? He laughed. You're funny, Maria. I could talk about our world for a very long time. You've got so much to learn. Tea is a drink that a lot of people like to consume. It makes some people feel good, I think. It's nice, truly. In all sincerity, he was beginning to enjoy talking about his world, a slight sense of pride burgeoning within him. Little did either of them know, though, that they were the third party dipping into their conversations, observing the madness, observing the lies of his preposterous, blasphemous facts. Well, to them at least. Maria leaned forward to Salvo, engrossed in the practically alien universe he was painting, amazed at the words he was saying. Perhaps his world wasn't quite so weird, more so quite positively extraordinary. She was trying to picture the world of 2132, trying to imagine every inch. But yeah, in the real world, in a lot of places that are upnetted too, we can travel using these oil capsules that rely on renewable energy sources, but I don't like to use them because they make me feel a bit sick, he said ruefully. Oh, she smiled at him. When I ride in the carriage, I feel I'm the same. Carriage? He laughed with amused joy. That's some, but he couldn't finish his sentence. He was struck from behind by a dog as quick as lightning. His head smashed in the ground. He was unconscious in seconds. Maria screamed, scrambling back, arm tearing through the ground and feet piercing sharp stones. She tried to leap to her feet, but felt the sharp crack of a metal object hitting her head. Before she slammed the ground, she was out like a flick of the switch. She resurfaced, trying to get up but couldn't. Her head hurt too much, as if a chunk of it had been bitten cleanly, and then swallowed by an evil dark force. All she could see vaguely was a large dark figure, striding away with the slumped body of Salvo on his back. Unmoving and unknowing, he had no awareness of the constant gap growing between him and the woman he had promised to guide so very safely to Yosemite. She watched, still lying on the floor, eyes wide, as the figure in Salvo grew further and further more distant. Finally, with a stab of pain and a wrench she sat up, tried to stand and run, then fell, looked up again. Through blood-stained eyes, all she could see was reality. They were gone. And that was chapter 12. Wow, that was quite a long chapter. Okay. But I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully I can upload this. It's pretty long. But yeah. You'll definitely see this if I have, so that hope is mute to you. Um, but have a good day, or evening, or night. Bye. Just spilt a bottle of water. That was the sound. Not like it was a big splash into the lagoon that's next to me. Which is next to me. That'd be weird, wouldn't it? Just having a lagoon in a room in a house. That'd be pretty weird. But anyway, bye. 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 Bye.